How's it going? It's Adam, it's Cool Media, and it's my birthday month this month. Well, for this month, I'm diving back into the wonderful world of Atari. Now, a while back, I think it was last month, I think it was last year, I looked at some of the games I grew up with that were from Activision, that kind of thing, but there was so much more wonderful stuff that was only on the 2600 that you really can't play other than on the original hardware. And that's what I'm going to be looking at. For these two videos, I'm going to be looking at some 2600 games that are stuck on the 2600. Most of these are completely originals, although I do have a couple of 2600 ports too. And the first one I'm going to look at is one that I've played to death. It is Fantastic Voyage, based on the movie from the 60s. And let's go ahead and get rolling with it. For those who aren't familiar with the movie, it involves a crew of doctors who get shrunk down and go into the body of someone who's dying to try to save him. And that's basically what the game does. Except they turned it into a scrolling shooter. This was actually quite advanced for its time. I've actually played this one to death. Now, this is one of those games that you don't technically beat. A lot of Atari 2600 games are like arcade games in which you just keep playing until you run out of lives or some other form in which the game ends. Now, I am not playing this on original hardware. Those who are familiar with the channel know I try to play on original hardware as much as possible. But when it comes to the Atari 2600, not a lot of, that's not really that possible. Now, you may be wondering why I'm not shooting these things too. That's one of the cool things here. If you learn that some of the obstacles are designed to be shot at, others are not. These are basically like platelets. You got now. The game ends when the patient flatlines, which happens if you touch the walls or hit the obstacles. Yeah, if you touch the walls, you could form antibodies like that. Now those things that look like keys are basically enzymes. Shooting them will be a safety net for you. If the pulse is starting to race, hitting one of those will slow it back down. This is very much a risk-reward shooter. It gets particularly complicated when a whole bunch of different objects start popping up all at once. Now, you complete a level when you destroy the blood clot at the end, which always comes up in the green stages. And there it is. Oh, those wonderful 2600 sound effects. Now the number tells you how many patients you saved. And as you go on, you get more obstacles that come up. I can't remember what absolutely everything is because I hadn't looked at the manual in God knows how long. But it is cool how dynamic things are. Now, it isn't just if you touch the walls that could be problematic. If the obstructions do too regularly, then that can cause trouble too. But the biggest thing is if things hit you. Yeah, things like this, if you go shooting them, as you can see, every time it flickers, that means the patient's getting worse. And of course, you could hear the pulse starting to get up. I just did that as a demonstration. Let's get the pulse back down. Now here's where the bacteria comes in. Now with these, it's no harm if they... Oh. If you let too many of them pass, it sends the pulse racing. I'm letting too many pass. Yeah, this was absolutely a cool little shooter for the time. It's very much like playing Operation, you know, the old electronic board game. Of course, you probably wouldn't know that unless you're as old as I am. Yes, I'm in my 40s. In fact, I'm close to 50. This was the kind of stuff I played when I was a little kid. Those people who were raised on PlayStation, Super Nintendo, or even NES. It's not the same as those who grew up on Atari. Yeah, I got a little sloppy there. Of course, if you run into the blood clot, it's an instant game over. Yeah, those antibodies are formed if you actually touch the walls. Yeah, those antibodies are a pain to try to hit. Yeah, this is one of those games I could still play for God knows how long. That's one of the wonderful things about growing up with Atari. You were at the dawn of games, and some of these games you can only play if you still have the nostalgic fuzzy feelings for the 2600. But there are plenty of games that are still endlessly playable. And this is one of them. Now each of the videos that I'm going to be doing this month are going to cover a grab bag of various 2600 games. Ones that I grew up with. Yeah, one of the nice things is that you're completely in control of your speed. One of the other things is just how colorful this game is. This is easily one of the unsung gems of the 2600, but of course it's completely restricted to the 2600. It never got ported anywhere. Yeah, this was made by Fox. Yeah, the movie studio. They put up their own game division, doing games based on their various properties. There is an Alien game that released on the 2600, but I never played that as a kid, so I'm not going to be talking about it. Now, I mentioned that I am emulating in this case because it'd be too much of a headache to try to. It'd be too much of a headache to try to hook up the 2600 to modern consoles, to modern TVs. But it isn't as simple as just hooking up I'm not just hooking up a PC. I'm actually playing on DC Stella, which is a 2600 emulator on the Dreamcast. Yeah, here's where it really gets tricky because there's stuff you shouldn't shoot, surrounded by stuff you need to shoot. And unless I'm very careful, I'm gonna lose this one. Okay, that helped. Yeah, that slowed the pulse down. And the difficulty curve just steadily goes up. There are no new wrinkles getting added in from this point forward. It's now just adding additional obstructions per level. Now, comment on this particular emulator. It is neat that I am able to use this to play 2600 games on my Dreamcast, but it's not flawless. The big issue is the fact that this particular emulator doesn't have the ability to hit the select switch. Now I know I could have just used the basic Stella on the PC, but I really wanted to be able to sit down and relax on the couch. Yeah, if you shoot nothing else, at the very least shoot those enzymes. Yeah, every time those bars flash black, that means the pulse is starting to go up. Yeah, sometimes you just can't get to them, and you just have to let them pass. Yeah, here's where things are really getting complicated. Yeah, I very much prefer precision shooters like this in River Raid over bullet hells. Yes, I recognize the challenge in bullet hell shooters, but there's just something about the need for precision in something like this. You just can't spray and pray. Okay. I'm going to see about saving this patient. And then I'll probably just end it. Now, each of these different games I'm going to be looking at will be very short, just a few minutes, but that's the way Atari 2600 games work. They weren't designed to be beaten in the sense that a lot of people think. Oh, damn it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and deliberately flatline. And that is Fantastic Voyage, and on to the next one. This is Buck Rogers and the Planet of Zoom. And yes, I grew up with the Buck Rogers TV show, the one with Gil Gerard. May he rest in peace, he died not too long ago. Damn it. Yeah, this is one of those games that gives you a variety of different modes. There's that slalom where you have to fly through the gates, and then there's the basic shooter, like if you were playing Galaga. Yeah, this game is a bit on the tough side. Damn it. Hit the gate. Now, this one I haven't actually played since I was a little kid. I did play this a lot when I was young. Yeah, you can see how fast those ships are going. I'm guessing they would be the Draconians. This last one is always a pain because you have to nail both parts in order to count as a win. Finally got it. Yeah, that bar at the top is basically your time limit. One thing that's easy to forget when it comes to 2600 games is just how colorful they can be. Even the most basic ones are just loaded with color. It's much easier when you use back to control your speed. At least when it comes to the shooting segments. When it comes to the slaloms, it's definitely best to go as fast as possible. But that could still happen. Damn. And it's over. I almost forgot how tough this game could be. Alright, on to the next one. This is Carnival. Now, I know the ColecoVision version is a lot closer to the arcade, but this is the one I grew up with. Damn it. Yeah, this one's a straight up shooting gallery. The bar at the bottom is your bullets, and you run out of bullets, game's over. Yeah, you have to get rid of. You have to get rid of those carousels in order to stop the enemies, in order to stop the targets from spawning. Damn it! Ran out of bullets right before the end. Oh, that's how you hit select. Yeah, I didn't realize this. On this emulator, here, by holding down the right trigger and pressing Y, it's hitting the reset button. Hitting X is the select button. I wonder. Yeah, those targets that pop up at random times can give you extra points or give you bullets. The 8s right there always give you bullets. If that chick gets down there, then it'll eat some of your bullets. Yeah. Okay. There's that. Now let's. There, cleared that round. Yeah, this is an arcade game in the strictest sense, as in you keep going until you hit the game over. Now that's one thing to worry about because if you see some of those random pop-ups are not beneficial, they'll actually take away score or bullets. Of course, it becomes a real headache when they're not giving you more bullets, and there are more right when it is about to end. But yeah, very basic shooter, but I have a lot of fond memories of it. On to the next one. Now this is Ghost Manor. This is one of those games that can actually be beaten. And it's also a game with multiple modes. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with trying to touch the ghost, that's in order to get the arrows that you need to get through this level. You run out of arrows and you're screwed. You get hit by that axe man, you're screwed. Now here's mode 3. Gotta get the crosses. Gotta get the crosses that I need in order to beat Dracula. And whatever I do, don't touch that wall. Yeah, this is one of those games where it's only one life. You get if you get hit, you're dead. You lose. You got to start all over. There's cross 1. In fact, there's also a time limit, as you can see by the hourglass. Now, if I turn on the difficulty switches, I could turn off the lantern. I could turn off the lantern and try to navigate completely in the dark. There's the other cross. Go. And amazing, I still remember how to win this game. Yeah, the soundtrack can be a bit grating. More than a little grating. Well, because this is such a short game, I'll show what happens when you lose. Now, by flipping the color black and white switch, you could switch between playing as the guy or the girl. But unfortunately, this emulator does not have the means to hit that switch. Yeah. This was a rather advanced game for its time. In fact, Sonic's did plenty of rather advanced games. And that is Ghost Manor. I know this one was very quick, but that's the way it was. On to the next one. Now, the funny thing about Spike's Peak Inc. is the fact that this was actually part on the same. This was on a double ender cartridge where the cartridge would have each end of the cartridge would have a different game on it. Now, I know I could do much better at this game than that. Yeah, as I was saying, the Sonic's cartridge would have Ghost Manor on one end, Spike's Peak on the other one, and I played both a lot. Now, Spike's Peak, you're about climbing to the top of a mountain, and this is another one of those, like with Ghost Manor, where each of the levels it gives you something entirely different. Let's go ahead and restart. I had to get used to this again because this game on the emulator is running a little slower than on the original hardware. Yeah. Yeah, this was a very complicated game for its time. With having to worry about air when going into the caves. Yeah, yeah, this is running a lot slower than the way the game ran on the 2600 itself. Yeah, those crystals at the far end are for restoring your heat. That staff can slow you down, can stop you from sliding too far when those avalanches hit you. Of course, hit the Yeti. That's it. Fortunately, if you get up to a new area, then you don't have to start all the way at the bottom of the mountain. You could just pick right back up. Nope. Yeah, the sound effects can get more than a little shrill. And I reached the top. Damn it. It's always stupid when those condors immediately come down the second you're in the level. Now, in this level, the only way you die is if you get knocked off the side. like that. Yeah, I played a lot. I played this a lot when I was a kid. I still have fond memories of it, but I would say this is one of those games that does not hold up anymore. Well, on to the next one. This is Journey Escape. Yes, based on the band and the album. Yes, that's Don't Stop Believing. Oh, good, you can turn off the star field. Now, the whole goal of the game is to get all 5 members of Journey, the 5 that were members at the time, to the star car at the end. And this is basically like one of those endless runners. Most of these obstructions will take money away and slow you down. You have a very limited amount of time to get to the star car. Now, you do get some help. There are roadies and, of course, the manager who give you temporary and complete invincibility, respectively. Like that. Oh, damn it. I took too long. And there's the manager. Now, you can turn on the lights, but it looks like with the emulator, that would slow everything down too much. But yeah, this is a prototype for the endless runner games that a lot of people play on their phones. Now, there is that Journey arcade game that I've actually played plenty of times. That one's a bit more infamous because, well, that was Steve Smith, next Jonathan Cain. And as you can see, the time that I had left from Steve Smith gets added on to the time limit for Jonathan Cain. Now, this one plays very heavily on music. You heard that little bit of Don't Stop Believing, an 8-bit rendition. Now, as much as you want the manager to touch you, you almost don't because of the music that'll play constantly in an endless loop until the level's over or until it's game over. Now, Ross Valerie. And yes, they're indicated by only their initials. Yeah, there are some times where you just want to take the hit. There's the manager. In this case, completely invincible until the level's over. But see what I'm talking about? That loop will keep playing over and over again until the level's over. Were it not for the fact that I can't pause, I'd be taking a moment to turn the sound off. Now, Neil Sean. As for the obstructions, basically, Basically, the ones with the hearts are groupies. Yes, groupies. Means they're photographers and there are those sleazy con men. There's sleazy con man AR guys. There are also those obstructions, and those obstructions don't. Those barriers don't take any money away. Those managers don't. Those barriers don't take any money away, but they do hold you up. Keep in mind, you only lose if you run out of time. And now, the legendary Steve Perry, represented only by initials and this one character. I still contend that Steve Perry is one of the greatest vocalists in rock history. When I did my Hot 100 songs, I of course had to have a Journey song and a Steve Perry solo song because Steve Perry's awesome, and I've heard him recently. While his voice while he doesn't quite have the range that he used to, he's still an amazing singer now. Yeah, it's a good thing to have as much time as possible. It's a good thing to have as much time as possible when you get to Steve Perry, because as you can see, the obstructions are all over the place. Got all 5 members to the star car, so you get this little cinematic of the escape, which is reminiscent of the album cover itself. And then it goes on to another level. Yeah, on this emulator, having the lights in the background definitely slows it down. Yeah. Apparently this emulator is not good for the very animation-heavy Atari games. Yeah, lost quite a bit of the money. Yeah, 2,600 games, all about building up your score. Now, one of the more embarrassing things you could do in this game is to get the manager, get your total invincibility, and then miss the star car. Like I almost did right there. Yeah, this was one of the more graphically intensive 2600 games. I know this still looks Lego-y like a lot of 2600 games, but this was pretty advanced for the time. Yeah, the trouble is when you really get caught on the barriers to the point that they push you all the way down. Oh. Let's see if I can actually make another run through here, and whether I succeed or fail, I'll move on to the next one. Yeah, this is very much a game that birthed the genre, which won't really come into play until smartphones become a thing. But yeah, you could see the endless runner part here. Damn it, knocked me away from the manager. So, given the tune that would play incessantly, could be a relief. Unfortunately, the runs won't start until you hit the button to start it. Yeah, see how the direction and the speed changed at almost complete random. Damn it! Missed the start bar. Now, could it come up again? It could. Because these obstructions come up, these objects come up at random. But most likely it won't. And that's it. An interesting prototype for a whole genre, but does it hold up as a game? Only kinda. And even though it's cool to hear journey tracks in 8-bit, you can get sick of them, especially when you hear that 1-second loop whenever you get the manager. Well, on to the next one. This is Kangaroo. Basically, a platformer where you play a boxing kangaroo. It's kind of like Atari wanting to do their own version of Donkey Kong. Damn it. Yeah, the big trouble comes when you get on the ladder. I know some of the projectiles you can punch away, but obviously not all of them. Yeah, this is basically Donkey Kong Light. Damn it. I gotta love that screen flicker. Damn it. Yeah, it's been a long time since I played this. I used to be able to beat this game in my sleep, and by beat this game I mean complete one cycle of levels and move on to the next cycle. Oh. I actually forgot that you could duck. Yeah, I'm not actually trying to jump in those cases. Well, that time I was. All that 2600 flicker. Damn it! Yeah, this is one of those cases where, because the 2600 controller only had one button, you jump by pressing up. Damn it. Which is just not that precise when it comes to a platformer. But that's Kangaroo. On to the next one. Now, remember I said that I would tackle a couple of Atari ports? This is one of them, Moon Patrol. This was a game that, to my knowledge, didn't get ports anywhere else unless you count the arcade emulations that would come up later. In this case, it's a shooter with a bit of an endless runner thing because you cannot stop your moon buggy. Damn it. And it looks like this is another one of those games that doesn't play nice with DC Stella. Damn it. And since this is another one of those games where you have to press up to jump, it does lead to plenty of failed jumps. Fuck you. No bonus. Yeah, this is an endless runner basically mixed with a shooter. And I would say that this is one of those that definitely doesn't work well with the DC Stella emulator. All the slowdown is making it very hard to pull off some of the jumps. Yeah, some of those enemies can even create new holes in the ground. Got the bonus that time. But yeah, with the slowdown on this emulator, it could be very tough. It could be very tough to pull off some of the jumps, like that one. With that one, you have to slow down in order to be able to make a small hop. Even with the proper 2600, that could be very tough to pull off. Yeah, see? I'll try one more time. Yeah, this is definitely a game that does not play nice with the emulator. If I was using the emulator on my PC tower, chances are everything would be working perfectly. But I really wanted to use this one. Damn it. Yeah, that's another thing. Pressing up to jump, no matter what the game, can lead to you accidentally jumping when you don't intend to. Like that. But yeah, this is one that probably plays perfectly well on the native hardware, but on an emulator, at the very least, this one, it has its problems. Oh well, on to the next one. Now, this is a game, Mountain King. This is a game that I played so much, but I have never beaten it. And I'll explain why in a moment. First, let's beating the game in only 3 minutes. Insane. Now, the whole goal to this game is to get the crown and get to the top of the mountain. This isn't a randomized maze. This was fully constructed. The random element is getting the eternal flame that is needed in order to be able to grab the crown. Which you can only grab if the game says you can, which at this point is when you've gotten enough of the basic treasure. But this is another one where you have to press up to jump. The button is for your flashlight. Now you hear that sound? This is a game that actually uses sound. Okay, I heard... Okay, come on. Yeah, whatever you do, don't get down to the bottom floor. Yeah, the jumping is more... Okay, it's on this level. It's on this level, but farther to the left. Actually, no, not farther to the left. I guess I gotta go up. Okay, I'm walking away from it. There it is. Okay. I have the flame. Now I gotta grab the crown. Funny enough, my mother actually managed to beat this game. There's the crown. Now time to try to reach the mountain. Come on. Yeah, if those bats touch you, you lose the crown. Or more correctly, if they take the crown. But you could also run out of time. But in that case, they got it. Now, I'm going to show you, since I probably won't actually make it because it's been 40 years and I still have never beaten this game. Damn it. And even when you're playing on the lowest difficulty, which gives you 8 minutes in order to solve it, it's still extremely tough. Yeah, This is some of the more complicated platforming you could actually find. It'd be that way even if I wasn't trying to play with a Dreamcast controller. I guess I can't jump through that hole. Some of these holes are just impossible to get through. Now, anyone who's seen the nerd episode about game glitches would know about the glitch that could allow you to get up to well past the game world and be able to fool around with the layout and things like that. Yeah, there's one. Oh, got enough of the treasure to be able to try again for the crown, but I know fully well I don't have the time, and I want. Oh, come on, hey, you get back up there. Yeah, there's no jumping through the platforms. This game would be so much easier if you could. Yeah, that flame up there, that's what you have to reach with the crown in order to be able to win. And I've never been able to make it. Got to get up there with the crown and kneel. Basically set your ass ablaze in order to complete the game. Don't get me wrong, this is a very fun little platformer. But there's also no denying that it's ungodly hard. This game also showed up on other platforms of the time, like the Atari 5200, and you could just imagine how much tougher the game is playing with the 5200's infamously terrible controllers. Oh, there it is. But it's easy to love the way this game works with sound. Come on, get up there. Get up there. Damn it. Now, to be fair, a lot of the challenge comes from the very slippery controls, which would be slippery even on a proper 2600 joystick. Yeah, with the 8 minutes, you could probably get a second try, but it could be a pain in the ass. Mountain King, one of the hardest games on the 2600, but you could still enjoy it. On to the next one. Now, for the last one for this time around, it's Pengo. This was originally done by Sega in the arcades, but Atari handled the 2600 port. And you hear that tune plays endlessly. And I'm going to do the world a favor and turn that off. Yes, this is one of those cases where you can actually turn the music off. 1 second. Yes, I'm doing you a favor. You're welcome. Yeah, your goal is to squash these guys. Now, the ones that glow are eggs. Actually, they're not eggs. These are ice blocks, which do not break for anything. Damn it. Oh, the blinking ones are the eggs. And yes, you can destroy them before they can actually hatch. Yeah, this one, the slowdown is slight on the emulator, but it's still operating properly. Yeah, the game is this simple. Very simple arcade experience, which was the big thing that 2600 games did. Damn it. Sorry I don't have much more commentary, but Pengo is this simple of a game. But it can be addictive, like most good arcade experiences. Damn it. Yeah, the reason why those ice blocks are there is that way there's always a way to complete the level. The game would be irredeemably broken if all the blocks could be broken. Yeah, if it takes longer than a minute to get through a level, you don't get any bonus. I think if you also take too long, then the enemies all speed up. Yeah, as the levels go, the layouts cycle, but more and more eggs pop up. Oh, why couldn't that egg have hatched right then? In fact, it's entirely possible to nail more than one enemy in one push if you get them properly lined up. I don't know if there's any kind of limit to how many eggs will pop up. Damn it! What? Oh, got all three in one. Okay, it looks like 5 is the limit for how many eggs will come up. It also looks like 5 is the limit to how many lives you could have. Now, it's not like Pac-Man where they'll actively chase you or anything like that. They will try to come in your direction, but oftentimes they're just wandering around. I don't think they actively chase you until there are not enough eggs left, not enough blocks left. Yeah, My mom always hated whenever I played this game because of the looping tune. Yeah, you can see them going faster now. Now, if the ice blocks get trapped in the corners, then you're definitely over. Especially if there are no more blocks to use. It's often satisfying when you actually nail them with their own eggs. Well, that's Pengo. And that'll be it for this time around. I covered 10 games that I grew up with. I didn't get an NES back in the day. I didn't. Or more correctly, my parents didn't. I was on the Atari 2600 until well into the 80s, by which point Dad actually got a Sega Master System. I think he got that because he was able to find it cheaper. The only time I was able to play NES was at friends' houses. But I definitely had plenty of Atari 2600 games, mainly because a lot of kids were willing to trade me just about anything just to get rid of the 2600 games. Hell, I had a Steelers jacket, and they gave me a whole library of 2600 games just to get the patch off it. And yes, I did trade that. It's not like I cared about the Steelers. Anyway, I got some more memories to share next time. Well, like what I'm doing? Give a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Any questions, comments, other extremely old games worth checking out? Drop them in the comments below or send them to that blue sky right there. Next time, I got some more 2600 memories to share. Take care and game on.